must say, Missile, I'm in your camp as far as the Angus Crichton decision is concerned.
Oh, wow, Jimmy.
I'm absolutely stunned he's facing a 2-week suspension for that. And to be honest, it's embarrassing for head referee Ashley Klein now that the match review committee have slapped him with a 2-week charge, and he was only sin binned. In hindsight, if it's a 2-week charge, he should have been sent off. But I didn't think it was anywhere near that category. I thought it was a reactionary thing, and there was, I would argue that there wasn't much force to the contact. And I'm happy with the sin bin, but now that it's a 2-week charge, I find it farcical. He's now in danger of missing the potential of the opening round to the Roosters, if not an All-Stars game in the pre-season, Angus Crichton.
Junior Paulo did a similar thing and wasn't suspended, right? He cocked
right.
the elbow. And
he got off.
That's right. Free to play. Yeah.
Got to keep Samoa competitive, though, so you've got to take that into contention as well. Just on that, the elevation of Samoa and Tonga to Tier 1 status, we know it's not just results-based, Dave. What's the likelihood of that?
Yeah, look, you're right. Jimmy, you're right. It's not results-based, and it's a whole heap of, how strong are both island nations as far as their resources, their player development, the depth of their squads. Interestingly, guys, a side note I've picked up on, and it just might give you a little insight into why it might not be as cut and dried as what people may think on the back of Samoa's success. They didn't have any GPS systems attached to the players' jerseys. Now, what that means is, back here in the NRL, all 16 clubs, call it 17 clubs now with the Dolphins, they can monitor and keep an up-to-date process of their players playing for Samoa, and it allows them to see how much work they've done as far as even down to the point of how much they're weighing, so that they know when they come back into pre-season training how much work even the big boppers need to do over summer. But Samoa couldn't even afford those GPS systems. Now that's a little insight into, if you're looking at the resources of the elevation from Tier 2 to Tier 1, it doesn't look too promising on that front. However, the spin-off of all this is, if they are elevated, it will lead to a major decision and a complete, a historical decision of whether the likes of Jerome Luai, Junior Paulo, Brian To'o will have to choose either play for Samoa or don't play for Samoa at all and continue to play their state of origin for New South Wales. We've seen it with Victor Radley choosing England over the possibility of being selected in origin, and it'll be a huge moment for the game if these two nations are elevated. It'll come down to a meeting, guys, with the International Rugby League in the coming months.
Where do you stand on that, Dave? Just around eligibility for origin, because that's the knock-on impact that we're all most interested in or concerned about. Where do you sit on that?
I'm comfortable with players playing state of origin and then going on to represent their heritage nation. I think the game isn't big enough on a global scale to forego that. I think the best players playing origin should also be the best players should be playing at the World Cup. And for me, I think there needs to be some type of agreement that, so long as they've resided in their state since the age of 13, I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, I'm the other
Thoughts?
way. Yeah, I'm strong the other way. I'm strong that anyone who plays state of origin must be eligible to play for Australia. And the reason I say that is because I really think there is a development of game opportunity with the international game that would be missed otherwise.
I'm happy for young football players to bleed blue, but either you bleed blue for New South Wales or you bleed blue for Samoa. I don't think you can be equally as passionate as both. And I loved, when they do that war cry for Samoa.
Yes,
I'm sitting there thinking, you're that passionate about Samoa, play for Samoa. Don't worry about New South Wales.
But here's the problem, Dave, and that is, when do they play for Samoa? Because that's one of the things that Mal Meninga talked about. It's like, I want to stay. I want to keep. But what's the schedule look like? What's the calendar look like?
Yeah, it's tough.
My other big concern, guys, is the rising increase of Pacific Island and Polynesian players within the NRL. And if it's look, I haven't got the actual numbers with me now, but it would be sitting at around 50 to 60%.
Yep.
Let's do some forecasting. Right, in 25 to 30 years' time, what do those numbers look like?
Yeah, probably.
And then you've got a real problem with state of origin.
Yeah, the interesting thing that I saw around that is with the Pacific Islander nations and the like, this Australian team that took part in this the Rugby League World Cup final had none of those, probably for the first time ever.
Tino Fa'asuamaleaui.
Probably the only one.
Yep.
And it didn't affect our chances at all, and it did strengthen both the Tongan and Samoan nations. So I think it almost makes the international game more interesting.
Without being anti-nationalistic, it's actually a good thing when Australia is challenged and loses at international rugby league. I know that's
Yeah, agree.
You know, what about some NRL player movement news, Dave?
Yeah, look, guys, I think we'll start to see this really ramp up now the World Cup's over. That's been largely the case. A lot of administration, player managers and key players over at the World Cup, but now that's over. I think we'll start to move. Just a little bit of news coming out of the Brisbane Broncos, guys. Tessie New, young talented fullback and play a bit of centre as well. He has been granted an early release if he can secure another contract at another club. Now, we know Reece Walsh will be almost certainly the starting fullback for the Broncos next season, and that puts a bit of a hurdle in front of Tessie New. And as I said, Tessie has approached the Broncos for an early release. He can go that way if he can get another club. Now it's the Newcastle Knights, guys. I'm keeping an eye on. They have been circling a number of different fullbacks, and Tessie's name has come up at the Knights. They clearly want to move Kalyn Ponga to 5'8", so keep an eye on it, guys. Let's see what Tessie New does.
All right, Dave. Again, putting my Bulldogs hat on. Stephen
what other hat do you have?
Australia, New South Wales.
Is it ever off?
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's never off.
All right. Spencer Leniu, Herbie Farnworth, Stephen Crichton. Out of those three players, which one of them is likely to land at the Bulldogs?
I'll go with Stephen Crichton there, Missile.
Ooh,
I think the Panthers will struggle to get anywhere near the salary that he will now demand.
Fullback
on
money.
the back of a World Cup, but also his success. Yep, Crichton for me, and the Dogs could use a fullback.
Love it.
Not before they need a halfback, but anyway, that's a separate one. Hey, Dave, fantastic, mate. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, boys. Go well.
Dave Riccio, their chief sports writer at the Sunday Telegraph.